Welcome once again to our podcast, Born Again Credit, where credit is restored, not just repaired. This is your host, Salvation's Call Ministries, here with you today. And I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. And today, our topic is types of FCRA errors. The FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, once again, Fair Credit Reporting Act, is a set of laws, a set of guidelines for the bureaus that should be followed. They're really there for the rights of the consumers. And these were established after years of fighting back and forth with Congress, creditors, and the bureaus of establishing just basic rights of what could be legally placed on a credit report and what couldn't. Before, obviously, you could find any types of information on a credit report, and now you can still find basically any right or wrong type of information on credit reports, depending on who the credit bureau is and what their purpose is. And we've talked about this before. You got your three major bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You've also got your more minor bureaus, which are not minor in importance, but minor in the fact that they may be a little bit smaller and not one of the major three, like LexisNexis. You got the Medical Information Bureau. You've got several others that I could mention, and we could be here all day talking about those. But today we're focusing on errors and issues that can be found within a credit report. But first, I want to address some common thoughts here, some things that popular beliefs that people have that may not necessarily be true. But do you think or believe that the bureaus are possibly on your side, that they're working for you? And are you assuming that the information that the bureaus and all these organizations collect and have will be accurate or even truthful? Do you believe that these information companies and bureaus, and yeah, I want to let you know that I did say companies, because they aren't government agencies as many people just assume. But they do operate under the graces of the federal government, under their leadway for profit reasons. The government doesn't like to have their hands on this. This is more of a hands-off type thing. As you notice with everything financial, they have taken their hands off. The Federal Reserve, the banking industry, things that they've taken their hand. They establish a set of rules, set of laws, set of guidelines, but they don't necessarily want to show that their hands are involved, because actually individuals run this country. But all that aside, do you think that they have your best interests at heart? If you do, you're probably sadly mistaken. And you're probably in for a rude awakening. And the next time you check your credit report, if you haven't yet, you're going to get that rude awakening. But perhaps you haven't noticed any errors because you don't understand exactly what you're looking for or what the information means. Perhaps you haven't even checked your credit report. You're just assuming that the number you get is the number you deserve. And it's not necessarily all your fault. You haven't been educated on it. You haven't been advised of it. They didn't tell you in high school that, hey, you need to check your credit report once a year, and you get a free annual credit report at annualcreditreport.com, and you need to look over that. You need to go through your personal finances. You need to try to get all the cash flow that you can out of your budget. They don't tell you these things. And for good reason. There's a good reason that they don't give you the education on credit. And there's a very good reason. The less information you know about how to obtain a good credit score, the better off the bureaus and creditors are profit-wise. But how is that? How is that happening? Well, honestly, it's all in the statistics. It's all in the numbers. The more information they have about you, correct or incorrect, helps to develop your credit history. And yes, some people do have great credit because they know how to play the credit game. That history is then placed into a numerical formula, and that formula determines your credit worthiness. If your history is solid enough to obtain credit, it can then be beneficial both, to you and the creditor. It can help both of you out. They get a profit, little small profit if you've got great credit. If you've got worse credit, they get way more profit. And you get what you want because you get whatever it is that you finance, you've purchased. You could call that a win-win scenario, and you might get a great deal on it. But what if you could actually be spending much less money, but because of those errors, because of those erroneous accounts, because of that wrong information reported on your credit report, you're now paying thousands, maybe even double-digit thousands more over the lifetime of the loan than the guy next to you? What if I walk in with an 850 Beacon and I purchase that brand new vehicle, and you walk in with a 600 or a 580, but you put $5,000 down? You still may pay more for that car than I will. Depends on how long the loan is, depends on what the details of how much the car was to begin with. But the odds are you're going to pay more. But that is what happens when we do not keep the bureaus in check by disputing our credit reports, making sure that our credit reports have accurate and correct information on them. They aim to keep us in what I would call the subprime credit or lending category. They love people to be in that subprime category in order that they may profit off the individual account more. They want to place you in that subprime category because these companies, these creditors, are willing to pay more money for the subprime category because, well, they make more money off of interest on you. You're a number to these guys. A social security number to be exact, but you mean profit to them. You're worth X amount of dollars, depending on your income, depending on your credit score. But they make billions a year off information, but yet they can't even keep that protected. They make billions of dollars every year off something that's pretty much invisible. This information is stored in systems, probably a cloud system, various hardware systems all across the world. But yet they can't keep it protected, even though they're making killer money off of it. And the evidence is all around us. I want to talk to you about a recent article by CNBC, and it kind of spells it out for us. It kind of shows us right in front of our faces about the recent Equifax data breach. But around this time 2 years ago, the article states this: the Equifax data breach exposed the personal information, home addresses, social security numbers, etc. of 143 million consumers. But that's most of Americans, right? The astounding number of errors in credit reports that are a result of misaligned economic and legal incentives. Isn't that what I just said? Now, I didn't just find this out through a CNBC article. I've been knowing this for a while. This is information that most individuals who are educated in the credit world already know, that these guys have misaligned economic and legal incentives. You can already see that. The article goes on to say more than 1 in 5 consumers have a potentially material error in their credit file that makes them look riskier than they are. Hello. Puts them at a lower credit score in layman's terms. Lenders respond to this incorrect data by offering you a higher interest rates, less favorable terms, or denying credit if the error makes you look too risky. Given the importance of credit scores, why are they so inaccurate? The article gives us 3 reasons: size, speed, and economic incentives of the system. Each of the major bureaus has over 200 million credit files that on average contain 13 past and current credit obligations, resulting in 2.6 billion pieces of data. Each month, more than 1 billion pieces of data are updated, requiring a speedy system. With so much data coming from so many sources so quickly, errors are inevitable, especially if you have a common name. And I've seen that in real-life examples. Half or more of medical bills have billing errors, it goes on to say. Half or more of medical bills have billing errors. Have you got a medical collection on your credit report? Have you checked it? The odds are you probably do. And a lot of them get reported even for $10. I mean, I've seen stuff for $18. But half of those medical bills have billing errors. And if they have errors, they can be what? Deleted. Okay? We just got to find them. So 40 million consumers obtain at least one credit report annually, although not always for free. So only 40 million out of, 250, 300 some odd million people in the United States, only 40 million of them obtain a credit report annually. So most Americans don't even know what they have on their credit report. But it goes on to say when they get their report and see errors, consumers act. 8 million times a year, consumers contacted one of the big 3 credit reporting agencies to dispute information, yet the dispute system is not designed to fix the problem. The credit bureau is only legally required to check with the creditor or debt collector and ask them whether they stand by their claim. Wow. Not sure I 100% agree with that opinion there, as the law clearly states that they're to delete it if it's not accurate, or you could take them to court. But as long as the creditor says you owe money, the dispute is resolved in their favor. As the National Consumer Law Center concludes, credit bureaus have little economic incentive to conduct proper disputes or improve their investigations. So, that is why when you commit to credit repair, especially DIY or do-it-yourself credit repair, you're committing to a long process. This is not something that happens overnight, whether it's you who does it or a professional. And if they do it overnight, you need to ask questions, because sometimes individuals who call themselves professionals conduct themselves in a criminal manner and claim you have been through identity theft when you have actually not been through identity theft, and it can get not only you locked up, but them locked up. So it's a long process. It's sometimes over a year-long process. Do you have to wait the whole year to see results in your credit score? Absolutely not. You do not. But I want to give you some FCRA errors, maybe some things that you will see in your report when you start to review it, especially if you've got an extended credit history and you have more than a couple accounts. So let's go over a few of these common ones, these FCRA errors, as the law kind of points out for us. It's a lot of common sense stuff. So let's look at some third-party collections. You may look at an account and say, I have no idea where this came from. And you would state that. It's pretty common sense. I have no idea where this came from, where this account came from. How can there be late payments on a collection, you might ask? How can there be late payments on a collection? Why does this collection have late payments? Please delete. I need to see proof that this account is mine. I've already mentioned I have no idea where this account came from. I sent a letter in. You sent it back saying it's verified. I need to see proof that this account is mine. I need to see method of verification, proof of verification. All right, let's look at late payments. You may look and say, I was never late paying on this account. Please correct this to show paid as agreed. I wasn't late. You might say, send me the documents proving I was late, if they come back and say it was verified. And you could also ask, how do you show 90 days late for a payment when it's never been late before? If there's 90-day late, it should say 30, 60, 90 in a row. You get 30 days late 1 month, 60 days, and then 90 days. Sometimes you might skip to the 60, 90, but I would still challenge that. Okay? Sometimes it's because they don't report the first 30 days, and you've got a window there, and obviously it won't show up in the report, but I would still challenge that. I would still dispute that. But if there's a late payment, say there's one late payment on an account or two late payments, and it's a 20-year-old account, do you necessarily want to delete it? Probably not. You might ask for that to reflect paid as agreed. If several times of that doesn't work, then you might send in a goodwill letter to the creditor, especially if it's an open account, and let them know. I wouldn't dispute an open account unless there's special circumstances. There are exceptions because they may close that account on you. Something such as a credit card, unsecured debts, they may close those accounts on you. But we'll look at identity theft, which is a common reason that people often use, although it should never, ever be used unless you have actually suffered identity theft. This can get you locked up if you're not being truthful, because it most of the time does require a police report. But you could say this account is not mine, or this account does not belong to me. I need to see paperwork with signatures verifying this account. I need to see the paperwork. I need to see it, original paperwork. We'll talk about collections, say a debt buyer collection. You say, I have no idea where this account came from. I never had an account with this person. It's the wrong creditor or balance. You could say this has already been paid. Please delete this. Why does this account show a past due balance? This is a collection. Why does it show a past due? Let's talk about repos for a second. This account shows a wrong date of last payment. Please delete. If it's a repossession, you want it deleted. How's a monthly payment reported for this account? How do you show a $350 car payment on something that's closed and repossessed? No idea. That's a violation. Certain paperwork has to be sent to me before a vehicle can be repossessed and reported on a credit report. I did not receive that paperwork, and now seeing this account on my credit report like this, please delete. Okay. So you're telling them you did not receive the proper documented paperwork prior to this repo being reported on your credit report. Let's look at charged off accounts. And this may be a charged off account, could be a repossession, could be a number of different things. Could have been an old vehicle, could have been telephone services that you owed $1,000 for, and they charged it off for tax reasons. But you could say, how can this account show no balance when it doesn't say paid or sold / transferred? If it's sold or transferred, it should say so. And a lot of times that'll be why it doesn't show no balance. But it also won't say paid. So it should say one of those, or it needs to be deleted. This balance is wrong. The balance on this charged-off account is wrong. I never had any property finance with this company. Or I never had any services through this company. That happens sometimes, especially when they got the wrong person because they have a similar name. Let's look at bankruptcy. You could say, and now bankruptcies are difficult. They can be difficult, and there's a process for it. And I could explain the process, but it might confuse you more than anything if you don't know what you're talking about or looking at when it comes to disputing bankruptcies. But it's worth giving it a try on a bankruptcy because it's a public record and it does damage your credit. But a lot of times, by the time you're trying to fix a bankruptcy, it's been so much time that it's not as big of a factor as it once was. And to some people's surprise, that when a bankruptcy comes off, sometimes it doesn't. Although it always helps when it comes to getting approved for credit, it doesn't always make their credit score rise as many points as they think because over time that bankruptcy has less and less impact on the score. But the newer accounts start to have more of an impact over time. But the date filed is wrong under this public record bankruptcy. You could say that if the date's wrong. The court name is not listed correctly. It has to be listed in a correct format. Please delete this record. There's specific things that have to be mentioned: the court's name, address, various things. If they're not listed correctly, it needs to be deleted. All right, so there's several different things that you could challenge, several different kinds of types of accounts with, and many of these violations and errors can also be used for other types of accounts. And as you see, some are listed multiple times. So there's some things that you can use the same reason for all across the board, but I wouldn't, when writing a dispute, when figuring out what you're going to dispute and what you're going to say, I wouldn't throw all my tricks in one hat. I would save some for later, but use the best first. Hit them hard, hit them heavy. Remember, their goal is to verify this information so they can keep it on your credit report. But the reason you use to dispute is always based on your individual credit report. And that's going to vary from one report to the next. Ed doesn't have the same debts or accounts as, say, Tim. Because Tim is, we'll say, 75 years old. Got a 30, 40-year credit history on his oldest account, when the other guy doesn't. Going to have a different situation. Different things are going to be disputed, but not everyone has the same errors or accounts. So it's always going to be a case-by-case basis. But as always, we're here to support you in prayer and advising on you on where to turn next. And if you have any questions, concerns, or need help with the next step, become a partner with us today. I challenge you to allow us to assist you with everything you need to get to the next level. Obviously, we're not here to take advantage of people to run a profit. We are actually a nonprofit, and we're a ministry, and we're here to help you in the name of Christ. But we do have to raise funds for mail postage and labor and things like that, resources, in order to do the work for you. But if you'd like our help and partnership, or to simply just do the work for you, visit our credit restoration page. And that can be found, that'll be posted here in the blog, but it can be found at salvationscall.org, and you can click on the credit restoration tab there. And we also have the credit restoration blog. As you scroll over that tab, it'll actually pop up out the bottom for the blog, and it goes over the various topics, and you can honestly educate yourself through the blog, begin to understand how to actually do your own disputes. But if you need assistance, you need help, we're here for you. Just send us an email or message via the site. But remember, there are no attorneys on staff here at this ministry, and no advice or laws stated on our site or by my words should be used to replace sound legal advice. We're not lawyers, and if you have legal questions or in need of legal consultations, please seek an attorney or your attorney. But I want to thank you for joining us here today and allowing us to serve you and to worship the Lord in the process. But I want you to repeat after me for just a moment. I want to leave you with the right mindset, the right understanding of the process, to have faith in God as He wants to help you in this process. But I want you to repeat after me right now. I'm a child of the one true God who is loving and faithful. He has plans to prosper and not harm me, to give me a hope and a future. My credit will be restored and I will live in abundance. I have good credit. I have good credit. I have good credit. Amen on that. One day you're going to look back on that and you're going to say, actually, as you repeat it and repeat it daily, you're going to look at it and say, actually, I have awesome credit because of how God's blessed me and what I've been able to do with it because of His blessings. But once again, I'd like to thank you here at Salvation's Call Ministries for joining us on our Born Again Credit Restoration blog and podcast. But if you could, take a minute to check us out online. Even send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to join us as a partner and let us assist you in your credit restoration journey today. Most importantly, if you haven't given your life to Christ as your Lord and Savior, I would encourage you, above anything else, before you ever lay an eye on your credit report or any other issue in your life that you have, to seek Christ today and allow Him to restore your soul today, to have a relationship with Him as your Savior. John 14:6 tells us that Jesus Himself said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you want to run the streets of heaven and not hell upon your departure from this world, my friend, make that decision with your heart, mind, and words today. And if you need to help with this, and until next time, thank you for joining us on Born Again Credit, where credit is restored, not just repaired. God bless.